now to video number 2. So in this video I'm going to be reading out to you my first diagnosis report from when I got diagnosed. So I got diagnosed, and do go and check out my diagnosis video where I talk about that in detail. I got diagnosed a long time ago now, it seems. The process started towards the end of 2008 and carried on into 2009. So I got my provisional diagnosis towards the end of 2008, and I got my full, proper, official, confirmed diagnosis in March of 2009. So the first, what happened when I first, so first of all what happened was, I was on the waiting list, but and I was quite lucky actually, because I got seen fairly quickly. I had to wait just under a year, bearing in mind this was back in sort of like 2008, that wasn't too bad for the time, you know. Some people have to wait a lot longer. And the adult autism team had only just been set up as well, so there wasn't like a really long waiting list like there is now in some places. You know, adult autism was just becoming a thing around that time, so I was quite lucky. And also, they brought the diagnosis, the assessment forward as well. I think because they saw I was a priority, because I was receiving like mental health treatment at the mental health team with my OCD as well. So they and also I think I was kind of pushing for it as well. So I was saying, when am I going to get assessed? And I was kind of often like banging on to them about how long it was. I do think you sometimes have to push to get seen quicker. If you just sit there and just allow them to do it, you're more likely to wait. So I was kind of like putting in a lot of pressure on myself as well, and I was writing them quite a lot of letters because I was getting quite impatient. They actually brought it forward, and I was seen by a clinical nurse specialist the first time. He was a really nice person. He was a man. He was really nice. He did arrive a little bit late, I do remember, and my mum had made a special journey. My mum had taken time off work to be there, and I do remember she was actually getting a bit more stressed than I was. He was late because, which is funny, because she'd taken time off work, and you know, she was like, you know, I've taken time off work because he was caught up in traffic. But he was really apologetic when he arrived. And put us all at ease. I remember my dad made tea and coffee, or tea. Did he have tea or coffee? I can't remember. I think it was coffee and some biscuits or something. And it was all very kind of like relaxed. And he took time to kind of get to know me and talked a little bit about himself. He'd actually trained under Simon Baron-Cohen. He did take the kind of like testosterone theory of autism, the androgen theory, which obviously I disagree with. But that aside, he was a really nice person, and we had some interesting chats about. I was like quite into kind of like. Well, yeah, I find like psychoanalysis. I was quite into psychoanalysis at the time, so we had this kind of interesting conversation about that. I remember, and asking quite a lot of questions. And yeah, anyhow, so he saw me. I think it was about how he came again. He spent like about a whole afternoon with us, so quite a number of hours. And then he gave me some questionnaires as well. I think the second time he came, he gave me some questionnaires and carried on. So it was done over like about 2 days, two sessions on like 2 afternoons. I had to fill out the empathy quotient and things like that, the autism quotient, Baron-Cohen's screening thingy. And he said, yeah, I'm confident, you know, you're autistic and everything. So it's quite strict. I wanted to get more confirmation, because I was like, I need to see like the full multidisciplinary team, because I wanted it to be done like properly and thoroughly. So he said, you really don't need to see them, but because I was like really wanting to, he put in a referral for that as well, so I could get like a more proper kind of assessment as well, because I just wanted it to be done as properly as possible. But he was like, yeah, he said, they'll just say what I've said, they'll just agree with me that you're autistic because it's clear cut. But I wanted to get the full, you know, the multidisciplinary thing, so that was done as well, and then I had to wait a bit longer for that. So he did an initial report. It's actually a really short report, some of them are really long, so I'm going to just read it out to you now. Now I might have to come back to this next week, because the camera might run out on me, but I'll just start to read it out anyway. So I got this on the 14th of January 2009, the letter. He says, Dear Anna, and this is the Asperger Syndrome High Functioning Autism Service. Many thanks for meeting up with me for the community assessment process in November of last year. As promised, here is the feedback and summary of our assessment for autistic spectrum differences and the recommendations as a result of the assessment. At present, Anna gets some support from her local community mental health team, primarily medical reviews and some support worker input once a week via the team. She has also had some cognitive behavioural therapy via the team, but felt she wanted confirmation, as did her parents, of the possibility of her having an autistic spectrum difference. Well, very PC language there, not disorder, but difference. As a result of this and a lengthy wait for the diagnostic clinic, I agreed to begin the assessment process by in-reaching to her home and family. Early life experiences, differences in development. Anna recalled, and this was confirmed by her parents, that she struggled at an early age with the hustle and bustle of school in both her primary and secondary education. She found crowds unpleasant. She found the bustle of a playground confusing and larger social events, such as parties, very difficult. She also reported some noise sensitivity and particularly recalled finding firework displays anxiety-provoking and that the alarm bell at school was distressing. While noise sensitivity is not considered within the present framework of ICD, International Classification of Diseases, diagnosis of autistic spectrum differences, to be a necessary or diagnostic symptom, sensitivity to noise levels and social activity is often present from an early age in those individuals who have autistic spectrum differences. So this is interesting because obviously that has changed now, and now sensory differences are in the diagnostic criteria, but back when I was diagnosed they weren't. Her educational psychology assessment in school noted some eye contact and interaction difficulties, and it also noted that her Wechsler Adult Intelligence Scale test, I think he actually made a children's one because this was before I had them done as an adult, so that's a bit of typos there because I had it done when I was a child first of all. There was a notable difference between her assessed verbal IQ and performance IQ, which was as would be expected of an autistic spectrum difference. Early cognitive, linguistic and motor development differences. Anna's early language development was relatively normal from her parents' recollection. She babbled at the appropriate age and learned words and sentences at about the expected rate. Perhaps a little slowly from their recollection, but not so delayed that it caused undue concern in of itself. Atypical or high-functioning autistic spectrum differences tend to have no significant delay in language development, so Anna's development neatly fits into this. Her parents recalled she was very early in her reading development, but numbers and shapes were slow to develop. Early on there were difficulties in terms of boundaries and personal space, and that Anna was very sensitive to personal physical contact. They also recall differences in her motor skills in early development, in that she had a habit of walking on her toes, which is often an early indicator of possible autistic differences. Social play development. Anna's early play development fits an autistic spectrum profile. Around 3+ years, her cooperative play was relatively poor for her age. She developed her own games. Typically, her peers that she socialised with were much younger than herself, and she was sometimes disruptive in her nursery placement. Anna was very energetic as a young child and was at times difficult to console when upset, and had prolonged bouts of screaming and long tantrums when she was a young child. Current presentation. Anna continues to find managing her emotions difficult, and outbursts of distress and anger continue to be difficult within her relationships with others to this day. She struggles with changes in the home and has a need to control her daily routine, which is regular and quite rigid in its nature. She struggles if her routine changes or she is unable for some reason to complete a piece of her day-to-day routine. She struggles in the boundaries with others in her relationships and also finds that she has difficulties in forming and maintaining friendships. She has a poor social network as a result. She has at times been accused of being rude by others because of her direct communication style and the difficulties that she has in understanding others' emotional and mental states and intentions. With her friendships now, she can struggle in taking an interest in the other person. She presents with social communication and imagination difficulties consistent with an autistic spectrum difference, specifically atypical autism, I don't know what he means by atypical autism, I should have asked, or higher functioning autism. Anna has a significant interest in systematising, that is, understanding factually how things function at work. Her personal interests tend to be all-inclusive and narrow. She recounted how she had a particular interest in the actress Kate Winslet, spent a large amount of time learning everything that she could about her, because I had my assessment, it was just shortly after that interest had finally started to peter out. She became interested in the historical events surrounding the Titanic as a result, and practically memorised the script of the film because it starred Kate Winslet. Her interest in social media is typical of those on the spectrum, in that she finds fiction less interesting than factual programmes, and is less interested by social dramas than others of her developmental age. Her parents also pointed out her tendency to take conversations and comments sometimes literally, and that she struggles with colloquialisms and idioms. Again, this kind of presentation is typical of individuals in the autistic spectrum. It is also noteworthy that Anna struggles with OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, particularly around food and hygiene, and this difficulty from her recall developed as a problem around her primary school age when she was particularly struggling with significant social life change. Anna undertook the autistic quotient scale and the empathising quotient scale with me on my second assessment visit and scored 37 on AQ, which places her significantly into the autistic end of the scale. 26 plus is a clinical cut-off point. I won't go into that now, but I do have issues with the AQ because I think it's quite biased and geared towards the male type of autism. That's Simon Van Cohen, by the way. She also scored 8 on the empathy quotient tests. Individuals on the spectrum tend to score 12 or less on this scale, which demonstrates their difficulty with emotional processing and developing empathy with others. As a result of the clinical interview, neuropsychological scale tests, and the developmental history provided by Anna's parents, it seems clear that a diagnosis of atypical autism would fit Anna's presentation and explain the difficulties that she struggles with. Atypical autism. Again, I wish I'd asked him exactly what he means by atypical autism. There we go. I have therefore recommended that she be seen by a diagnostic clinic in order to have this diagnosis confirmed by the team, as she clearly fits the criteria for such a diagnosis. I've also referred Anna to your local charity for consideration of some specialised outreach support worker input to enhance the work that has so far been undertaken by the local community mental health team. I plan to meet up with Anna again in conjunction with the outreach service to help plan phasing in this support and hope this will be a useful adjunct to the support she is presently getting from the CMHT. I would invite the local team to contact me to liaise with regard to this so that the development of her care plan reflects this change and to help in the ongoing review of her care. Please do not hesitate to contact myself should you have any queries regarding this assessment report, and that's a clinical nurse specialist. So that was the first assessment, and then next week I'm going to read out to you the official diagnosis, which I got the following year, when it was all confirmed, because I asked for that, even though he said that, I didn't really need that, but I wanted that for my own confirmation, because I like to do things proper and thoroughly. So then I was seen by the psychiatrist, speech and language therapist, and all the other people who confirmed it and did another assessment. So I'll read that out to you next week. So I hope you've enjoyed this informative, and I hope you found this informative, and thank you for watching.